Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me again. Today, we're going to be going over the 50th anniversary remix of the Chicago Transit Authority album. So, I'm very excited. I got it in hand. This is the gold vinyl edition. So, I've already taken a listen to it. So, I have my thoughts together. And I'm just going to speak about it a little bit and show you guys kind of what buying this entails. And maybe you guys will want to check it out if you haven't already went out and picked it up yourself. So as you guys can see, I consider myself a pretty big Chicago fan, um, as I have a lot of their vinyls already, most of these original issue. So I was very excited when I heard they were going to do a 50th anniversary remix. So if you guys follow the group like I do, they had a remix of Chicago 2, which was produced by Steven Wilson, and he did a fantastic job. So as for Chicago 2, it was never a great sounding record when it was originally issued. And the remaster helped out a little bit, but some of the recordings were still kind of fuzzy, some levels were a little bit off. And when Stephen Wilson went back in there, he did a fantastic job. So if you guys haven't heard the Stephen Wilson edition of Chicago 2, just put your best headphones on. If your car has a good sound system, just go sit in there and listen to it from end to end. It is a double album, so there is some length to it. It's like an hour and 21 minutes long or something. Like it's pretty lengthy. But just like their second album, Chicago Transit Authority, was also a double album. So on the 50th anniversary edition, the only difference with the cover art itself is a little more saturated. I believe they call this the painted shingle. That's the artwork, and it has the on the top the 50th anniversary remix. So just to clarify, this is a remix. The songs will sound different. This isn't a remaster. So a remaster, they'll go up and clean things, take out some artifacts, but with a remix, they're actually changing the levels of the original masters. They're going back, accessing those, and shifting some things around. So on the back, you have also the original artwork, and then you have the track listing. So scoot that in so you guys can see that a wee bit better. So 4 sides in total. So we have introduction. Does anybody really know what time it is? Beginnings. Side 2, questions 67 and 68. It's one of their big hits. 2, listen. Song 3, poem 58. So we're going to side 3. We have freeform guitar, so we get to listen to Terry Kath do some pretty strange things with his guitar. Man was an innovator. Side 3, South Carolina Purples, I'm a Man. And then we have side 4, prologue of August 29th, 1968. Someday, August 29th, 1968. And the closing song, Liberation. So, Liberation recorded live, so it's fantastic. And then the only difference is on the bottom it lists management, Peter Schiaparelli, Critter Management. It lists their website and their Facebook page. We also have the barcode and at the bottom the Rhino logo. So Rhino as a record label, they've done a fantastic job of putting out Chicago music, getting all these collections put together, getting these reissues out. So big props to Rhino for supporting Chicago and really just going after it. So this is the 50th anniversary gold edition. So the difference with that is that there were 1,000 of these made, I believe, and they're specifically numbered. So I have 174 of 1,000. So we'll go ahead and open it up, and it does include the original photographs, just like the original edition. Let's see which way I need to move this to help you guys out. It's quite a wide album. It's being the double it is. So from left to right, we have Danny Seraphin at the top. Then we have James Pankow. Maybe I move right here. Hey, how about this? James Pankow. We have Peter Cetera, Walt Parazater, Lee Loughnane, Terry Kath, and then all to himself in a band that's all about equality and democracy. We have Robert Lamb over here, living in the spotlight. I know, Living in the Limelight. That's it. Those of you that follow Peter Cetera will know the song I just referenced. In here it also lists the track numbers, and then there's the producer's note. So if you guys haven't heard that, he writes quite the, I guess, think piece. So I'll go ahead and read that out. Go back into my reading position. So we have, let's see, the name of the endeavor is simply the Chicago Transit Authority. For the last 13 months, these 7 individuals have performed in Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco as the CTA. So, for nothing else than practical logic, they have chosen to title this work appropriately after their professional identity. The purpose of this commentary, however, is an attempt at documenting the complete rejection of any name, label, title, or verbal reference relative to the performance contained herein. Corporately as well as individually, this artist endeavors to be judged in terms of contribution alone rather than through the tag affixed upon it. The printed word can never aspire to document a truly musical experience. So if you must call them something, speak of the city where all save one were born, where all of, let's see where I picked up, where all of them were schooled and bred, and where all of this incredible music went down barely noticed. Call them Chicago. James William Guercio. So, a little think piece for you. And we'll get to the, I guess the most important piece here. We have the album itself. So here we have the Rhino Stereo Chicago Transit Authority. And so the vinyl itself was pressed to look like this shade of brown, but it's this liquid gold. Chicago Transit Authority stereo, almost the shade of the walls, but pretty neat. And they're doing that for their 50th anniversary. So this album was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2014, and it did have that original remaster in 2002 that's been released. So a lot of important things, or a lot of cool things with this album. Originally put out in 1970. Let me get the dates here. I have the Wikipedia article on my phone just so I can sound intelligent. It was recorded and released in 1969, even though the album over here states 1970. I don't know, maybe they're rounding up. Let's see. Recorded January 27th to the 30th. I believe they only had 5 days in the studio, which is very impressive to get all this. Their Hall of Fame debut album in 5 days, released in April 28th, 1969. So then we have Chicago 2 releasing the very following year after their opening tour, which is insanely impressive. And from then on, they were just a record-producing powerhouse. So they're actually about to release Chicago 37. That'll be their Christmas album. So I've already pre-ordered it, and that vinyl will be swirled like a peppermint. At least that's what it's being advertised as right now. So very excited to get that in. I believe that'll be releasing within the next couple weeks. So hopefully I'll be able to put up another video similar to this one. Recorded at Columbia Recording Studios, New York, United States. Genre, jazz rock, progressive rock, and the runtime was about 80 minutes long. Very impressive, especially for the debut of a band. But I assume if you made it this long, you're procrastinating on doing something. You probably need to get out there and get after it. But thank you guys for watching. Just kind of talking over the Chicago Transit Authority album. And here for a second, I'll just go into the actual mix itself. So my thoughts on the mix, it is different. It's pretty different from the original mix and from the 2002 remaster. The vocals are kind of cleaned up and set apart, so the vocals are a lot stronger. And if you're a fan of saxophone, Walter Perezader kind of cuts through in this mix. And so being a woodwind or being that saxophone, it kind of creates a warmer tone in a lot of the songs. and this kind of leads a lot of people to believe that the songs have been compressed. I've noticed that comment a lot from people that have listened to these songs so far. They say that this mix sounds more compressed, and I believe a lot of people are getting it confused. This mix wasn't done to clean up and remaster the original album. This was done as a remixing. They're going back to those original masters and changing the levels. And they've also softened up the horns a little bit in certain songs and places, which I applaud. That helps bring out a lot of Peter Cetera's bass work, Terry Kath's guitar, and Robert Lamb's on keys, because there's a lot of times, and in other albums, they're very guilty of this. The horns are very powerful, and yes, it is their trademark sound, and it's fantastic. As a horn player myself, I love it. But I noticed going back and listening just to specific parts, there's some monster bass lines, just some great guitar work, and you have Robert Lamb all over the place on keys, and I rarely heard it or paid any attention to it because I was so accustomed to listening to that cutting horn sound. So the sound is different, so don't go in expecting it to be like the Chicago 2 right here, Chicago 2 Stephen Wilson edition. It's not really a cleaning job. They went through and changed the sound up, and that mix was produced by Tim Jessup, and the music direction was from Lee Loughney, so they kind of worked together to produce the sound they wanted. So if Lee endorses this, then I have to endorse it too. But it's just different. So don't go in expecting the same experience. So it's a new experience. But it's some parts they definitely did justice to. Freeform guitar has a lot more depth to it than it used to. So you can really hear a lot of the experimental things that Terry Kath was doing on guitar. There's some more separation in different parts, and a lot of the vocal harmonies. So if you have like Robert and Terry and Peter singing together, their voices blend together more as one. So that's pretty neat. Creates a pretty different sound. The mix can also be found on Amazon Music, Google Play, Spotify. So if you have any of those streaming services, you can find this mix. But just know that the MP4, MP3, whatever, the streaming quality may degrade it slightly, but it still sounds pretty decent. But I definitely recommend taking a listen to it and seeing what you think. And if you guys have any questions or anything, just go ahead. Feel free to drop a comment or message me, and I'll do my best to get back to you guys, answer any questions about this. Other than that, I guess just have a great day.